What's up, folks? Welcome back to the channel, and today finally we're back with another video. And as promised, my most recent branded deck profile, I played it in the pre-Chaos Origins format, so there will be some changes to the deck list, of course, with some exciting new cards coming out, like Pharaoh, like the 3 Brave Sword Souls, like the new TCG exclusive Super Poly target. There's some good options that I definitely want to try out. But this is the list that I ran pre-CORI. I wanted to take it to an OTS championship, as I posted in the community notes. But the first time that I've ever seen that happen is the OTS championship got cancelled because of 2 little pre-sales. So obviously I couldn't go there. And what I did though with this list, and I did that with this exact list, is take it to 3 locals back to back in the last 3 or 4 weeks. And I've won every single one of them, which of course is a very good result. So I'm very happy with that. 3 times first place is very good. So we'll get into the deck list. I'll try to go over it a little bit quicker because some things haven't changed. There are some things that have changed, but it's mostly about cutting things, streamlining things, and we'll talk about the advantages and disadvantages of that in just a second. So let's get into the main deck. The main deck, as always recently, is still 40 cards for the branded deck, and one of our best starters is still Aluba, probably our best normal summon still in the deck. Then, of course, 2 Fallen of the White, 1 OG Fallen, double Ecclesia, and double Cartesia. We have a few one-offs, and that is 1 Quem and 1 of the new kit, and then we're running double Shrouded Dragon. For the spells and traps in the engine, we're of course running the OG, the 1 of Branded Fusion, triple Branded and High Spirits, triple Nadir Servant, then triple Fallen and the Virtuous, and the singular copy of Branded Retribution. And this already completes our true engine lineup. Of course, Fallen the Virtuous is a little bit in between. Same goes for Shrouded Dragon, which is kind of an upstart goblin, Fallen the Virtuous being a pop, right? But of course it gets you great engine setup. That's why I always kind of count it as both. Same is true for the next 2 cards, and that is 1 copy of the Bestial Magnamut and the Bestial Saronir. Both provide you with engine or setup, while also being of course great non-engine, especially in the mirror match and in other matchups where they just do a lot, right? Can be good against Mitsu, can be good against Striker, even when you banish their Rose, especially if they only play 1. Though I've recently mostly played against people playing 2, where you kind of hardball the Bestial into banishing the Rose, and then you get sacked really hard when they have a second one, because you just focus your interruptions on something that actually didn't do anything for you, at least in the short term, right? Then for the true non-engine, we're playing triple Fuva, triple Radiant Typhoon Vision, 3 Super Poly, 3 Droplet, 1 Talents, and I wonder where my copy of Call by went. Sorry, 2 Droplet, 1 Call by, and 1 Talents. There did my Call by go. And that's 40 cards. We're only on 14 starters, if I didn't count wrong. So 3 Aluba, 2 Albas, that's 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 14. And I've been asked before why that is feasible, right? Because it's not the greatest percentage for starters, but we're basically playing fake 40 cards because we're playing double Shrouded. That's always a fake card, so it's practically 38. We're playing 3 Vision, which also is a fake card because either it gets ashed, which then allows your other starters, if you have them in hand, to go through, or it helps you draw into engine and or breakers, right? Which means that you're practically playing 35 cards, which changes the stats of the starters enormously. You should have at least 15 to 17 starters, to be over that 90% margin. But if you count down these cards, you're way over 90% again. That's why having just 14 starters is feasible, because you have 5 cards that just draw you into stuff, right? It's like playing some pot card and then 3 Upstart Goblin as well, or something like that. That's probably how you could compare it, or playing 5 Upstart Goblin, which of course changes the stats of required starters enormously, because you're practically playing a lower deck count. Of course, these cards could be ashed. I've never seen anybody ash Shrouded. People sometimes ash Vision, but they often let it go through, because if you ash the Vision, then they already have a starter in hand that loses to ash, then it gets really tough. But at the same time, of course, Vision allows you to draw into better cards. If you have a board already with multiple negates, then maybe it's worth negating the Vision. But other than that, I think it's really tough, and it's kind of a bait, which is also true for this deck to an extent, right? That's it for the main. You see that I cut some cards. I'm not playing Opening, I'm not playing in red, I'm not playing Sword, though I think playing Branded Opening and Sword is a good option with Farah in the format, because Farah is very powerful for this deck, and you want to have good discard outlets for her, and the only one that we really have is High Spirits, right? So Opening opens up that avenue, and then since we're playing cards like Super Poly and Droplet, I think you can also play Branded Sword again, because you have a lot of good cards that discard, and you can always send it for Shrouded, especially if it's still in deck, right? That's the plan anyways, which then might also allow us to cut down on the Vision, because then Opening isn't the worst starter anymore, right? But with this list, I like to streamline it as much as possible. We have 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If you count the 4 on the Virtues, 15 true non-engine, and then the 3 Vision, which is just a draw engine, right? But it helps you draw into breakers, it helps you draw into engine. It's especially good if you have duplicate quick play spells that you want to get rid of, like a second High Spirits or second Droplet or Super Poly or Virtues, right? You can always get rid of those. That's it for the main. Let's get into the extra. One thing that I also want to discuss with you is the statistics before I move on to the extra deck, and I forgot that. And as you see here on screen is the 14 starters that we're playing. So 3 Lube, 2 Fawn, 2 Ecclesia, 1 Branded Fusion, 3 High Spirits, and 3 Nadir Servant. And people have asked me before, like, oh, you're not playing that many starters. What's, like, isn't that too low amount of starters? And I would say no. In 40 cards and a 5-card hand, you have a chance of drawing at least 1 starter of 90%. With this deck. Of course, that gets better going second, though we will set out some starters. And what happens then is, if you play a draw engine like we do with the Shrouded and of course the Radiant Typhoon Vision, you practically reduce your deck count. It's the same thing as playing Upstart Goblin and Striker for consistency reasons. It's the same thing. And what we basically do is, here with these 5 cards, we practically reduce our deck count by 5 cards. And as a result, our chances change drastically, because we just now went down to, you could say, 35 cards, right? Because people usually let those resolves. And sometimes it's good to have Vision as an ash bait. I've never seen anybody negate the Albion. It probably would only make sense if that's your last card in hand. You don't have anything to play. They just don't want you to draw into your Branded Fusion or whatever, right? Or the Fawn of the White as a starter, because that could also happen. But other than that, these 2 cards will resolve 99% of times, especially the Shrouded Dragon Vision, let's say 95% of times. And as a result, with 35 cards in your deck, the statistics for drawing at least 1 starter is 93.73, if I'm not mistaken. In a 5-card hand, with drawing at least 1 starter, up to 5, right? And that's exactly the ballpark where you want to be. You want to be at like 92%, because an issue that you have with having too many starters, especially if they're not different starters, is redundancy. Let's say you play 15 Fawn of the White in your deck. You don't want to draw 2, 3, or 4 of those, the same 40 starters. It's like a card that you can search with Bonfire and Bonfire. If you have too much redundancy, of course, the one thing can be an ash bait, but that doesn't always work. An example is Magnet Warrior. You have Duotarian to search the bonding spell, and then there's another spell card that can search Duotarian. You play 3 copies of each, you have 9 cards that all just lead to that one starter that's actually good, right? And as a result, you can get a lot of redundancy. Ash baits can always work, but they also allow you to play into draw very poorly, right? Which you don't want to do. And the good thing about Vision is it can help with redundancy. It can get those duplicate quick play spells out of your hand. Of course, Branded can also suffer with too many normal summons. That's why some people cut a little bit down to 2. However, we of course also play other cards that help us with redundancy, primarily Droplet and Super Poly, because they require discards. But of course, if we go through our Cartesia fusion, we can fuse away a duplicate monster like a second Aluba. If we go through our Lobellion, we can discard a card. All that stuff works, right? But that's something to keep in mind when deck building, especially with Vision in the format. You can always reduce your starters when you keep those stats in mind. And this deck building theory gets even more extreme in application when going second, because then I will, in the majority of cases, side out Nadir Servant completely, which leaves us with just 11 starters, right? But in a 6-card hand, it still leaves you with 91.58, if I'm not mistaken, percentage of drawing at least one starter. I will again put a screenshot on the screen so you can see it for yourself. Sometimes I go even more extreme and side out one Aluba because of the normal sums, and then I'm like 89 point something percent, which is still fine, especially if you play draw engine cards, right? You will still end up with a decent chance to draw starters. And you want to see good board breakers, so that's the thing you can definitely do. With that all stuff being said, let's get into the extra deck. The extra deck is still pretty streamlined, and I'm excited to see some of the changes that will come with Chaos Origins, with of course the Mirror Jade, the Lobellion, Double Albion, and then of course probably my favorite card in the extra deck next to Mirror Jade right now is the Double Dragon that Devours the Dogma. I basically in every duel send this once and fuse into it once, or sometimes fuse into it 2 or 3 times, because you can of course use it to recycle itself. It's just a very good card. Titaniclad, super mandatory. Avalon Natus is probably one of the more cuttable cards, though I've recently had some influx of blue eyes again at locals, especially with beginners, and that's just an auto win, so I would be silly to cut it as of now. But this is of course one of the potential card targets as well. Then double 1 Windbroom, that completes our Albus Fusion lineup, and then of course still in engine we're playing the 2 Grangriganol, still very good. You usually fuse into 1 and then send the second with High Spirits first, which is the only reason why I play 2. If it weren't for High Spirits, I would probably be fine with 1. If we ever get a different good High Spirits target than Grangriganol, I would probably play it. That's just something to consider. We're playing the Borrow Furious Dragon, Mud Dragon as a Super Poly target, Garura, and then the Synchro Ecclesia as our final card. And I do own a Theseus still. I still haven't sold it, which I probably should do soon. But I don't think it's that necessary. Against Kulton, you're often fine with the other Super Poly targets, especially Mud Dragon, and then just your Albus fusions. Theseus is better, strictly speaking, but I don't play against Kulton often enough, where it would validate running Theseus. And there's some things just to keep in mind, because there's a very good new Invoke fusion where you could play in Branded. What you could cut. I really like those 2 as Super Poly targets, because they're especially good against rogue mode matchups to have those options, right? You play against some decks and all of a sudden Garura really is your only valid Super Poly target, especially if you want to Super Poly before playing into a board. If you can play into a board, of course, the Dragon that Devours, Mirror Jade, they're very good options if you have access to an Albus card. But other than that, Garura is just very good. Also plays well with Nadir Servant, where you can get you an additional draw. Cards to cut, really. I think you can get to the extreme and cut 1 Grangriganol. the Boar Furious, and maybe the Garua. You could even go as far and just completely cut those like variety super poly targets and just play the super poly targets that do well with your branded engine. So that would be Queritus, the new Fusion super poly target for spellcasters, which you could use with Cartesia and such, and then of course all the Albus fusions, right? All of them work. You can potentially play Sprint because it works with any monster special summon that turn. There's some options, right? But that's how I like to play it now. The Boar Furious Dragon is probably the card that came up least. I included it instead of Chaos, which also barely came up. I like them as an option to pop some obnoxious cards, but I've barely felt that they were necessary, especially going second with the way the side deck is built, which we will get into now. The final thing we need to talk about is of course the side deck, and you should always adapt the side deck, and same is also true for the main deck and the extra deck, but to a lesser extent. You should always adapt those deck lists, but especially a side deck, to the events you're attending. You know your locals meta. It might look drastically different to mine. Maybe it is more competitive. Maybe it's more casual. Maybe you just see rogue decks there because people like to bring their pet decks and they don't like to shell out a lot of money to play the best decks in the format, right? Maybe people prefer a specific type of meta decks over another, right? In the branded Kultum format, maybe they prefer branded, maybe they prefer Kultum, right? You never know. Also, it changes drastically when attending an OTS over regular locals, because there people usually show up with more competitive decks. People from other locals come with their more competitive decks. That also always happens. Even more true for regional, nationals, YCS, right? The format there is usually drastically different to locals format, because only the more competitive players of locals usually attend those higher tiered events. So always keep that in mind when building your side deck, when copying a deck list. I think net decking is perfectly fine. I do so as well from time to time, or at least I use those deck lists as inspiration, and then change non-engine and engine as well, according to my own locals, right? What is the cards I want to run? Best example, Abelinatus. If you're playing against a lot of dragon decks, maybe keep it in. It's good, right? If you don't play against a lot of dragon decks, you could exchange it for a different card if you need the space, right? Always consider those type of things. So for the side, one card I definitely don't want to miss is Drone Lockbird. It's just way too good in a format where Striker is actually a really relevant deck, and it will stay very relevant. It's good in the OCG right now as well, of course. I think also because of representation. If 30% of players turn up with Striker decks every event, then of course there will be some conversion to the top cut. But this card is just very good, not just against Striker. Against Striker, sometimes they can play around it really well, or can play under it really well. But you can do a lot of stuff with Droll against Mitsu Striker, which those always, because of the legendary modern decks, turn up often. There's a lot of tier 1 and also rogue decks, or tier 2 decks even, that lose hard to Droll. It's good against a Power Patron deck. There's just a lot of options where this is good, but for my specific locals, the players that I'm most threatened by is the branded mirror match, and there I want to have 5 to 6 cards, depending on going first or second, that are always live. And Droll just sucks against branded, right? In the majority of cases, it doesn't do nothing. You can have that niche situation where they go Shrouded Dragon first thing main phase, draw into a Luba, it's the only starter, you draw them, they would have to normal summon it, and then they can play, right? That can always happen, but usually you draw against branded really bad. Side it out if you play against branded. One card that I enjoy again in the mirror match, but also in the majority of matchups, is Lava Golem. This card has been really good for me. I usually never play it in any deck because I often play decks that require their normal summon. With branded, the only card you really need to normal summon is a Luba. Often you get around not having to normal summon it, and then you're just fine, right? You just Lava Golem away their board, you go Fallen Effect in hand, and you're chill, right? Or Cartesia Effect and play from there. There's a lot of potential for this card in branded. You can search it through Thrust as well, but just keep that in mind. There's a search before it. I forgot the name, maybe I'll put it up on screen if I don't forget it. One card that I enjoy a lot right now in branded is Triple Tactics Thrust. I think it's very relevant in this format in general. Of course, in the main deck it can search talents, but what it most importantly searches is of course the branded fusion. Because this card is just not that great with the way we build our deck for going first. It's really good for turn 3 though, and it's very good going second, especially if you already push with your engine into the board. You didn't go into the sync line because people will often stop you before it. Then you smack Burn Fusion on the board, and it just really is a game ender often enough. You just fuse into Mirror Jade very easily, which is way more difficult when you go first and you don't play cards like Branded Sword or Cocatorium, and then it's really, really nice. So keep that in mind. It searches not only breakers, it searches also Branded Fusion, which often is better than some breakers, especially if you're playing into a half board after you already played with engine and breakers, right? Good thrust targets, of course, Duster, and I talked about adapting your side deck. If you own Illusion Gate, definitely play that over Raigeki. It's just better, right? I'm playing 2 copies of Lightning Storm. The reason why I play Raigeki is because sometimes people are just smart. They set up their board with all monsters in defense, and sometimes the monsters are more threatening than the back row, right? Especially if they don't draw into their blowout, like their judgments. Then Raigeki is actually better against some boards, and you want to be able to search it. Lightning Storm is just an additional copy of Duster, basically. Playing Vision, so MST, really good. But you will see why, but I sometimes cite this in going first. But let's talk about 2 other cards first, and then we'll talk about why MST can come in going first. Solemn Judgment, just a good blowout, same is true for Solemn Accusation, and here same thing. If you own multiple copies, I just own that one because I packed it from the release event that I played, where I got a booster box as a reward. Pack this, and the Fedraulis, which is very lucky. I don't want to buy 2 more additional copies. This card is stupid expensive. What I would cut for it are actually 1 copy of Dust and the Raigeki, and then you're at 15 cards still playing the Solemn Accusation. The final card, and I think this one is super mandatory in Branded, especially in the current format with a lot of breakers running around, and that is the Diabolics. And the reason why I like MST with it is because if you play against a breaker deck, or a deck that needs normal spells especially, or ritual spells for that setup, is what you do is you summon out Diabolics with your Vision or your Hard Lord, you set the MST, and when they set a spell trap, what you do is, of course, use the Diabolics effect, pop, for example, your Grigonal or your Aluba that you still have on board, and pop their set card. Then they will usually set another one, because often they try to bait the effect, right? And you never know. Maybe it's just their only push. They have that Mitsurugi ritual in hand, they set it. Or they're engaged, they set it, and they hope you can't pop it. Yeah, then you have the MST left over, right? That's really the play. You can just pop another card. It's really good. And then you might ask, why don't I play this in the main? Because it's a good break and a good going first card with that specific setup against breaker decks. You don't always play against breaker decks. And for your game 1, I don't want to search MST if I'm going first, if I'm not playing Diabolics. It usually doesn't make any sense. There's this niche scenario where they need to play with a perma spell or field spell, and you pop it, and you're looking real good because you hard through MST, but that's not a feasible game plan, I think. Already yapped way too much. Let's wrap this thing up. Well, here we are again. I said I would make this a short one. Turns out I lied. I'm sorry, it was not planned. I wanted to aim for like 10 minutes, but I think this one will be closer to 20-ish. Tomorrow will be my first work locals in the CORI format. I will not have every card that I want to play for that format, especially I haven't tested any lists, like not even theorized about how the extra deck should change, especially how that main deck should change. I think I will try out Branded Opening again with Sword with Farah, because she potentially offers a lot of value to the deck for going first and second. First forcing 3 of spell cards, then discarding her for High Spirits for opening, those sorts of cards, where she offers a lot of value going second as well, right? Summons the big body and does a snatch deal. Sounds really good in theory. I will test it out. I'll pick up 2 copies tomorrow at locals, which should be exciting. And I might not play Branded though. I want to play some runic stuff, some shenanigans. Or maybe I will finally get to play Strike or Mitsu. I don't know yet. Mitsu Azamina is an option, even though I do not own Impulse, which I think adds really a lot to that deck. So we'll see. Probably will turn out just Branded again because I'm too lazy to deck build. Or it will be some Runic or White Force shenanigans, or Runic Right Force shenanigans rather. So that's it for the video. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye. Have a nice day or evening.